Now the stock prices, for all of them, I put 30 PE for ultra bear case. 30 PE, $884 per share and a market cap just below 3 trillion. Bear case, 30 PE, over $1,100 per share, almost 3.6 trillion in market cap. Base case, 30 PE, almost reaching $1,300 per share and a market cap over 4.1 trillion. Bull case, 30 PE, over $1,300 per share and a market cap over 4.2 trillion. In the ultra bull case, 30 PE, just below $1,300 per share and a market cap over almost reaching 4.2 trillion. Your 100 shares by 2030 in the ultra bear case will be worth 88,000 compared to what it is now. Let's say if the stock price is 200, that's 20,000 for 100 shares. You made a gain of over $68,000. In the bear case, 100 shares would be worth 110,000, 20,000 is what it is now. The difference is over 90,000 in gains. In the base case, over 106,000 in gains. In the bull case, over 110,000 in gains. And ultra bull case, over 108,000 in gains. So that is a sheesh moment. And I do think a 30 PE is proper if we're just looking at Tesla as a vehicle business and an energy business. Some people will say 25, some people will say 35. I'm just going to smack right in the middle and say 30 PE for the vehicle and the energy business. Now, let's see the realistic part, what could happen by 2030 in my humble opinion. By 2030, I think Tesla could deliver 13.5 million vehicles with an average selling price of around 33,000. This would give us a vehicle revenue of just 450 billion, almost there. With a 20% operating margin, we get over $89 billion. Energy is the same as the other ones. Services, I'm going to give it just over $53 billion, 20%. We get over 10 billion in service profits. Total revenue of 588 billion. Net income almost 118 billion. Shares outstanding is the same. With a 30 PE, we get a stock price of $1,087 per share and a market cap over 3.5. 100 shares in 2030 will be valued at over $108,000. If we subtract that from today's 100 shares value of $200, we get a gain of over almost reaching $89,000. That is a sheesh moment, and I do think this would happen. 3.5 trillion just with vehicles and energy alone. Sheesh. Some would say that, 20% is too much. Reduce it down to 10%, fine. If I reduce it down to 10%, we still get over 2 trillion in market cap, which is absolutely insane. Stock price of 776. That would mean you still made almost $50,000 in unrealized gains if you bought 100 shares now compared to then. So still, $2.1 trillion with a 10% vehicle operating margin, which again, I think Tesla's operating margin is going to be much higher than that. 25% I think would make sense. 30% if the compact car comes in and they have everything, then it's GG, man, it's GG. But that's just the vehicle and energy. What's going to happen when we add an FSD to it? I don't know if you guys are ready, man. FSD is what's going to go crazy here. Smash that like button, because it's going to get insane. The chart is exactly the same, but we just added the FSD global revenue and the FSD licensing. That is all. For the FSD global revenue here, I've already made a video how to break that down. It was very complicated, so I'm just going to refer you to that video, guys, to check it out, how it was broken down. And same thing with the FSD licensing. This was even more trickier, and I kept it the same throughout. Why? Because if Tesla sells more vehicles and takes more market, that's less FSD licensing for other car makers because you have more of Teslas out there. But if Tesla sells less, there's more other brands out there that Tesla can license. So it's a complex way of calculating it. So I just kept it an average median for all of them of 60 billion in revenue and an 80% profit because it's licensing, right? It should be 100%, but I kept it 80%. For FSD global profits, I kept that 65%, although they should be 80%, but keeping it conservative. Now the revenue, because everything is just here, you guys can see. For the ultra bear case, it's over $570 billion in revenue and net income of over 164 billion. That is almost 100 billion extra in revenue compared to the ultra bear case without the FSD, and 70 billion extra in profit, which is absolutely insane. Bear case, over 700 billion in revenue, profits almost reach a 1/5 of a trillion. Absolutely insane. The base case, over $800 billion in revenue, and net income is almost reaching 1/4 of a trillion. Bull case, over $838 billion, had net income 235 billion. And 2030 ultra bear case, the revenue is a bit less, but the profits is more because Tesla is benefiting from FSD. 30 PE, stock price of 15.15, market cap almost 5 trillion. That's absolutely insane. That would mean the 100 shares in 2030 would be valued over $151,000. That's $131,000 in gain. Bear case, 30 PE, 1824 in the stock price, market cap almost reaching 6 trillion. Sheesh. That would mean 100 shares by 2030 is over $182,000. That's a gain of over $162,000. 30 PE in the base case, almost $2,100 per share, and a market cap almost reaching $6.8 trillion. 100 shares at that time would be almost $210,000. That's a gain of over $188,000. Which is absolutely a sheesh moment. In the bull case, 30 PE, that's a stock price of $2,200 per share almost, and a market cap over 7 trillion. Imagine Tesla stock being over 7 trillion by 2030. That's absolutely insane. That would mean 100 shares by 2030 would be over $217,000. That's a gain of almost $200,000. In the ultra bull case, 30 PE, stock price of almost $2,200 per share, and a market cap over $7.1 trillion. That means 100 shares by 2030 would be almost $220,000, a gain of literally almost $200,000, just 100 shares. If you believe the FSD and licensing, which I do, will happen, which is absolutely insane. Now, what's the realistic here? What's going to happen, right? What's the realistic part here? As you see, realistic here, I put almost $700 billion in total revenue and net income of $192 billion. Now, obviously, the FSD licensing, I think, would be a bit more because there are less vehicles on the road as Tesla. But just keeping it simple here, we're going to keep it how it is. At 30 PE, that would mean a Tesla stock price of $17.77 and a market cap just below 6 trillion. And 100 shares of in 2030 would be over 177,000. That would mean a gain of almost $158,000. But that's crazy. Now, here's the thing. If Tesla is benefiting this much and they're growing their FSD like this, and there's no robotaxi here. If you add robotaxi, could you just imagine how big this is going to be? This is going to be absolutely, and these are going to be peanuts compared to what robotaxi will do. But if Tesla's doing these kind of revenue, I don't think a 30 PE would make sense at that time. I would think maybe a 40 PE would make sense, around 7 trillion. I mean, that sounds like a big number, but if Tesla is really doing FSD, and if you want to add in the robotaxi, 7 trillion, I mean, making $700 billion in 2030 in revenue, and almost 1/3 of that, or 1/4 of that, is profits. I mean, that deserves a high PE. That deserves, because they're growing fast. Apple is growing 6% annually, and they have a 30 PE. So you want to, this thing will be growing at least 15 to 20% with these numbers annually, if not revenue, just profits alone because of robotaxi and FSD. 30 PE makes sense then? I don't think so. 40 PE would make more sense. And so 7.7 trillion is absolutely a number that I can't fathom. So I'm going to keep it at 30 PE, even 35, 30 PE, just to stay conservative, around 5.7 trillion. Right now, Ron Barron is saying that Tesla could be worth 4 trillion, and that's already with the licensing and stuff like that. I'm not too sure if he has robotaxis included. And Elon is saying that Tesla will be worth more than Aramco and Apple combined, which would be over $4 trillion. So really, we are looking at around that price target of around 4 trillion. If we go back to the one without the FSD and stuff like that, that's around a 30 PE if they can do $700 billion in revenue and around 140 billion in profits, and we give that 30 PE, that's around the 4 trillion mark, around $1,300 per share. So that's very interesting. Obviously, this is all a prediction alone, but here it is, guys. 100 shares by 2030 without the FSD here, as you guys see from the ultra bear case all the way to the realistic. Let's just take a look at the realistic here. If the stock price is over almost $1,100 per share, your 100 shares will be worth 108,000 or 109,000 by 2030, and that would be a gain of almost 89,000. And in the FSD part, at the realistic case that I have here, your 100 shares by 2030 would be almost worth 178,000, and that's a gain of almost 158,000. So sheesh, that's absolutely insane. And that's why, guys, I'm all into Tesla stock. I do not want to bet against Tesla if they're doing all these AI stuff. If Tesla was purely an EV company, I would not be going all in. And even if Tesla was purely an EV company, the stock is expensive right now. I would say even $100 per share is expensive. But because they have energy and they have self-driving coming and the AIs and all the other things that are coming, the licensing and the robotaxis and all these networks that Tesla's trying to do, it's worth more. It's absolutely worth more. And it's going to be too late. By the time we realize it, it's going to be too late. And then that's when you're going to have an Apple moment or an Amazon moment or a Google moment or a Microsoft moment and say, oh man, I wish I bought like 100 shares at least of Tesla stock. You know, obviously not financial advice, but just my opinion and my opinion alone. But if you guys think these numbers are crazy, check out this video, the 2030 stock price, including everything, insurance, bot, robotaxi, FSD. It boggles my mind. Check it out. You won't be disappointed. Obviously, not financial advice, just for your entertainment alone. And obviously, a prediction. Guys, support the channel by getting your I Bought the Dip t-shirt. I'm wearing one right now. If you guys bought the dip, you guys need this shirt. In 2030, if this is what the stock price is going to be, then you need this shirt. Subscribe for more, and I shall see you guys in the next video. See ya.